right, welcome everyone. Before I go into my presentation, I am a backup speaker talking about people skills in cybersecurity, and I think originally this room was reserved for AI and governance, so if you're here for that, sorry. But it's a different topic, and I think you'll still get something out of it. And with that, my name is Tina Gaetacho. I'm excited to talk about my perspective as a former lobbyist who pivoted into cybersecurity about 3 years ago. And my goal is to demonstrate the importance of interpersonal people skills and how you can identify them and apply them to your career in cybersecurity or tech in general. This session will be less of a lecture and more of an interactive session. So I don't want to talk at you, I want to talk with you. And I will also be asking the crowd for questions and input throughout the presentation today, so just prepare for that kind of dynamic. As a business intelligence manager, I connect cybersecurity with business units to drive business outcomes. I focus on alignment between business-focused security risks and the central security and risk function. And with that, I want to note that nothing in my presentation is representative of my employer, Haleon, and scenarios in this presentation are purely examples and not indicative of my personal experience there. Previously, I worked in state and federal government relations in Washington, D.C., and I also worked at a think tank in Santiago, Chile for a while as well. So I've been talking about people skills, but what are they? I feel like some people can identify them, not really sure, or they are aware of them, but just don't want to use them at all. This is a definition I found in a Forbes article, and I really liked it. And I also want to ask, is this what this kind of quotation means to you? Is there anything about it that resonates with you when you read about what people skills are in this slide? So anything that comes to mind when you see play well with others, for example? Yep, that's a good one. Anyone else? Being able to read nonverbals, yes. Great perspective. Something that I thought, oh yeah, go ahead.
Attributes versus competencies, some of them you're born with, some of them you aren't, have to be trained.
That's a really good point, attributes versus competencies. You guys are going level 2 with this. When I first saw this quotation, I just thought about playing in the playground as kids. But really in a playground, I remember having to barter things. I wanted to, push the tire swing all the time, but I had to let other people take turns. And you're just using those same skills that you did at, 6th grade in the workplace now. And now just your salary is dependent on it. So first I will reflect on some skills that I used in my former life in government relations, and then general skills needed in cybersecurity that we're all aware of. And I'm also going to have some case studies from my experience before I went into cybersecurity. And also, I want to note that the skills here in this slide are probably obvious. I don't think anybody's surprised to know that assertiveness is a key characteristic for someone who is a lobbyist, right? But I just kind of want to show what the environment was there, and also the transition to cybersecurity. So this is exactly what I thought when I got the offer to work in cybersecurity. I thought, oh, no more. I can be myself. I don't have to placate anyone. And as soon as I started, maybe day 2, I realized that was not the case. Some things that I thought were needed in cybersecurity, knowing what you're going to use, right? Knowing the environment, knowing the threats, knowing how to be assertive, because that is a trait that you do need in tech, and just working on teams as well. But, of course, you also need people skills. Whether you're working virtually, hybrid, or in person, in a SOC center, you name it, there are collaboration opportunities in tech. So here are some examples of people skills. As you can see, this is not an exhaustive list. These are just some things that I wanted to highlight today. And I wanted to focus on these because some of these I feel are underrated, like good manners, and others I believe deliver high impact, such as active listening. Are there other people skills that are not on this list that come to mind to you? Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Knowing when to apply sense of humor, and fine-tuning the word sense, right? Empathy versus sympathy. I would say both, right? Empathy and sympathy are both people skills. You just have to know when to apply. It's the same thing as a sense of humor. You just need to know when to apply it to that environment. And ultimately, it doesn't come with a manual. It comes through practice with people. So some of case studies that I have when I used to work in government relations. When I was in Santiago, I worked for a Chilean think tank called Fundación Chile 21. And as part of the team, I was conducting research on the president at the time, Michelle Bachelet's first 100 days in office. Was less eventful than now. And before the presentation, I confirmed with my colleagues on how to pronounce names of the cabinet ministers that were in the room that I was presenting to, because obviously they were in Spanish, they were not in English, and I wanted to make sure I had their attention, and I was being respectful of their names and the titles that they had as well. Now, as someone with a foreign last name, I can personally attest that this is very helpful in establishing rapport. Just getting people's names right can really get you a long way. And I also note that good manners are different culturally from the north or the south of the United States. I'm originally a Texan, and when I go home to Texas, I talk to people more than I would when Washington, D.C., and I kind of say the hello, the good morning, how's it going, before I get to the ask of what I want. And it's something that I have to keep relearning of not rushing into the ask. It's more of a conversational dance, if you will. And I think just having that in mind, as people here, I don't know if everyone here is from the East Coast, but likely it's just remember having to have that conversation with the person that you are speaking with and meeting them halfway. Another key skill here is honesty. People want to believe that what you're saying to them is true. And if your work or your personality contradicts that, it's really hard to develop a relationship. And so I think of honesty as a building block where you are starting on a strong foundation. Once you kind of have a shaky foundation and you're found to be a dishonest person, it's really hard to get along with folks in the workplace. So just, again, something I think is underrated, and I think it's very easy to do. If you don't have the answer, just say, I don't know. I say it almost all the time at work. I learned it's better that way than pretending I didn't know the answer. When I worked in DC for an advocacy organization for the actuaries, I was tasked with directing a financial summit. So this is another case study that I wanted to show here. Some of the things that I learned here a lot was patience, because I was leading this summit for about 100 stakeholders, and I had to have a lot of patience because the staff members didn't necessarily like each other, but yet I had to make everyone focus towards a common goal of getting this thing out the door. And so that, for me, meant individually meeting with the different people, listening to them, really trying to relay back to them what I was hearing so that they felt heard. A lot of times people just want to feel that they're heard. And with that, it was successful, went really well, and it was the inaugural summit. And I did get recognized in front of everyone, so that was really nice. And it was nice to have the staff on board as well. All right, so we're going to go into some sample scenarios. Now that we've reviewed some people skills at a high level, let's try to incorporate some communication techniques to solve some scenarios in cybersecurity. Now, before I go to the first scenario, I just want to caveat, these are very high level and very hypothetical, okay? All right, so scenario number one, you're 1 month in at a new job, and there's a significant amount of employees, right? So nobody knows you. You are tasked with a project, and you have to find someone in another department that you worked with to begin the project. What communication techniques do you use to find this person? Curiosity, because yes, you do have to find out who this is. Yes. You may think you have their name, but in a big organization, your line manager isn't available to help you. How about that? And it's just dropped on your lap. That's a good starting point. Go in the directory. Yep. Yep. That's a really good one. And with the go and ask in mind, I put patience because sometimes it takes 1 or 2 or 3 people to get to the right point of contact. So you're asking, the curiosity is applied here. You're using the directory as well as a starting point, right? But ultimately, it's a big company and you need to find the right person and you just need to have the patience that you're going to get to that person. Another skill here is good manners. Why? You're 1 month in at a new company. Nobody knows you, right? So like I said before, you need to introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Tina. And depending on who you're talking to, they could be a chatty Cathy. And you just kind of have to go with it to get to the ask before you get to the next person. They may even help you more than you realize just by having that good manners. So, next one. You manage a team of developers. And this never happens, right? The thing that you're working on change in scope and everything has to start from the beginning again. As a manager of this team, what do you do to support the team? What are some people skills you can use here? Empathy for sure. Empathizing, being motivated by pivoting to the common goal, company mission statement, team mission statement, whatever it is, but making sure they feel heard with that empathy. Yes, for sure. Tact, yes. Depending on the environment that the team is in, yeah. Exactly. That's where the empathy comes in, giving them the room for that. And that's also the active listening as well. Thank you very much. Exactly. Yeah, you're just the messenger, right? Supporting them, letting them know they have an ally, right? Even if you can't control external stakeholders, you just let them vent. We all have this. We all go through this. All right, last scenario. Again, hypothetical. But if you were to speak with that employee that keeps doing it over and over, some things you can do. Ability to relate, right? Business evil compromise is still 85%, right? The point of entry. So it's done because people keep clicking on it. So just the ability to relate to that person and kind of beginning with, yeah, I know these things are really tricky. No, motivating because you remind them it is a threat. They're not supposed to do it, and they are endangering the company's information. Also, offering training materials that they have internally or even externally, right? And then, of course, patience, because it is annoying. But working in tech, you have to just remember that with folks that are outside of tech, it's just a matter of kind of meeting them halfway and just having that patience. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I hope mostly that I made you think about interacting with people and the importance of people skills in tech and in cybersecurity. I sometimes hold reservation when people refer to people skills as soft skills. I don't think they're soft skills. I think it's something you have to practice over and over again. I personally sometimes want to go straight into the Teams chat and just say, hey, this is what I need, how's it going? Like, the how's it going can go out the door. I need this deliverable by this time, can you make it happen? But I also have to remember, because people do this to me, they'll say, good morning, Tina, da-da-da-da-da. And so I've started saying the good mornings, I've started to say the goodbyes at the end of the call. These are like small things that I'm also practicing myself, so I do practice what I preach, but with that, I just hope that with some patience and understanding of other people and ourselves, that the workplace can be a bit more bearable and perhaps even pleasant. So thank you. All right. Any questions? Yep.
So I actually was kind of excited when I saw that this got changed to the backup discussion because I think it's something that it's a bigger issue in this community than ever gets discussed. I think the lack of people in this room is kind of telling, right? It's not a focus of a lot of people here. So I was wondering if you had any experiences or advice on we can practice social skills that we have internalized, right? We understand that they're there. How do you teach somebody
Yeah.
I can teach somebody technically, I don't know how to teach somebody soft skills.
Yeah. How do you teach someone who doesn't have strong skill set and people skills to get them? I have this experience as well. One thing that I do is I give them resources. So personally, I'm a member of a Toastmasters club. That really helps. I see someone with potential. I'm like, all they need is really just to help get that presentation going, speaking to somebody in a leadership level, but you have to practice it. So I recommend Toastmasters for those kind of people. People skills overall, they do need to practice interacting, but it could be something as good manners. Taking one thing from that list that I showed earlier, the people skills, taking one thing and saying, try working on this. Just try working on this. And just keeping it simple. Again, it requires patience on your side and on their side as right, because we're not all starting from the same level.
So mine is sort of echoing his sentiment and also the other side of that conversation. I recently started a position where I'm dealing more, I come from a tech support background recently and have started dealing more with like director level, VP level people. And sometimes they have a completely different way of talking to me than they do a director level person. And part of that is because the director level person can say, yes, I can do that for you, whereas I have to say, I got to talk to the director level person. Do you have like good ways of saying that without saying it like that, to where I'm like, I don't actually have any power, but you know, I got your back. You know?
Yeah. Do you have a response? I feel like you do. Yeah.
So part of this also is again writing or speaking to your audience, and to this extent, what you're going to want to do is again look at not only the negotiation part of the conversation that you're having, but also whether or not the conversation itself is going to be in an academic format, or is it going to be conversational, where it's just, hey, I'm talking to you as a friend, my name is Lee, and you are, and going on from there. Yeah. Or if it's going to be not only at the professional level, but realizing that you're speaking to somebody at the station above you, in which case then it's how much more respectful are you going to be in those responses to the folks that you're going to be talking with. And again, apologies for jumping around as far as how I'm communicating this information.
So going back to your question about like teaching people social skills, what my former organization I was with was doing was actually giving our software developers opportunities to go to conferences like this, to go network, so they could get practice, but they weren't talking to like the upper level stakeholders.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Harder than you try out loud.
Oh, did it? Okay. Yeah.
Even if you put somebody in an environment like this, they could sit on the wall and not talk to anybody. And so it's challenging. But part of that too, I mean, I've had a lot of experience on both sides. Just inviting somebody into the room to watch somebody, they're
Yeah.
delivering that talk to the higher rank person to see those skills in action. Some people are going to absorb them, some are not. That's just the nature of the beast. But exposing people to that so that they can try to learn it. And I've had a lot of that experience myself. So.
I can add on to that as like junior person, but being someone that wants to talk to people that are like VPs is very helpful in kind of understanding how that
It's definitely, lead by example.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to practice, right? Because even if you're seeing it, the person who's speaking in the back, you can see it, but you still have to practice it with someone to actually get to that level of being comfortable speaking to a group of people.
The confidence is harder when you don't have the clout that the person above you does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say from my personal experience, what I've learned is in that spaces and to help foster like the credibility and the relationship building and the trust, as you said, is to make it very clear, like, hi, I understand, like, this is the basis of our conversation, this is what you're interested in, but can you tell me more? Because that will then help me discern and help the boss discern what are the options, and from what I'm hearing, you're interested in X, Y, Z. This is what I can tell you from what has been, and this is also like here are the options available to you. if you're amenable to these paths, then I can like confirm with the director that this is something that we can proceed on. So it's almost like as if though you have to have that early engagement, and also you're having your boss, like the director, introduce people like in the room to say, this is my right-hand person, X, Y, Z. If you can't find me, this is the next decision person. Like, I trust them, and I know that if there's a decision that they can't make, they'll at least give you the appropriate options, and then come to me for like the final clearance or whatever it may be. So yeah, that's what I've kind of found to help, where it also then reduces the pain points of, oh gosh, now I have to wait for an answer or wait for my options. It's like, no, they're able to get it right then and there, and then understand, like, you might just need a quick sign off at the end.
Yeah, and that's the trick, getting them to come to me. I don't need them to send 3 different emails. They need to come to me and not to the security engineer, to the director. I'm the guy, and so that's that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had to tell my boss, like, make my life easier for you. If you don't want the 10 bazillion questions, then start telling people that I'm your go-to person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another suggestion also is to make that correspondence as concise and exact without being terse. And especially for somebody who is higher level, or even somebody at your level, or even for those below, it's like, be very exacting as to what you're looking for, using a lexicon that is not going to go above somebody's head or below it. In other words, you're trying to avoid being condescending.
Like everything they should already know it, but also don't give them acronyms that don't mean anything.
Avoid acronyms at all costs, especially if you're working in multiple languages, and also multiple, if the audience is not all from one location. And what I mean by location is if it's a company, an agency, a department, the same acronym will not necessarily mean the same thing to all people.
I have been told that it is time. I do love the dialogue that's going on. Everybody's practicing their people skills. This is great. But this, to your point earlier, I feel like this is just another instance of the importance of communication. We're all working with other people. We also have the power to empower other people to get those dialogues going as well. So I appreciate everyone attending this session, and I encourage the conversations too, maybe in the hallway so that the next speaker has the room. But thanks everyone for your time.